What is up, my crew? This is the Nook Podcast. My name is Stephen Murphy, and it is so good to have you listening today. First off, I just wanted to take a moment to thank those of you who have taken the time to leave a comment and a rating for the Nook. Those simple little things really do help. And while I have you here on the topic of interactivity, I'll remind you that you can always reach me by email. And that address is Stephen@nookpodcast.com. Stephen with a V at nookpodcast.com. And finally, you can imagine that putting these episodes together does come with some costs. There will never be a fee for listening. But if you feel inclined to support the Nook financially, it really is simple. You can just buy me a coffee. That's what it's called, Buy Me a Coffee. There should be a link in the show notes, and you can also get to it at buymeacoffee.com/the Nook. Thanks in advance for the support. Now for today's episode. Ask your average 12-year-old boy what he wants to be when he grows up, and you are likely to get a myriad of answers. And if you were to somehow follow up with that kid 10 years later, odds are that his career path went a completely different direction. Of course, there are exceptions to that rule. One such exception is my friend Trey Van Camp, who at the ripe old age of 12 knew that he would be a pastor. Even though after well beyond a decade, things don't look exactly the way he thought they would, he wouldn't have them any other way. Trey will be the first to tell you that a young church planter's life is full of its own challenges. No permanent space for the church to call home, having to supplement his income with a completely different job, all the while trying to maintain a good work and home life balance as a husband and father of 3. I first met Trey through his YouTube channel, where he chronicles a lot of his journey as a pastor and everything else. He's a fascinating guy and a good friend, and I'm glad you are here for some insights into his story. Settle in for my conversation with Trey Van Camp. I want to start with you. I know some of your backstory, but you were a teenager when you go to that good old line of you felt the call. When did you know that pastoring and ministry was your future?
So I go back 1 year. So when I was 12, my father came home from work. He was a really successful concrete business owner, attended church, every time it was open. And he said, "Hey, God is calling our family to start a new church." And so we were kind of shocked about that. And so he's like, "I'm going to be the pastor. And it's not me planting this church. Our family is. And so I want you to pray through, what is your spiritual gift? What is God calling you in serving in this new church?" And so he looked at me specifically and said, "I really want you to pray every day, asking God for that spiritual gift." So I did exactly that every morning, every night. It was just baked into my new rhythm of life, where I just said, "God, please reveal to me my spiritual gift." I just kept saying that over and over and over.
Wow. And
I didn't wait to serve. I mean, right away I started serving. I was the chief chair stacker. That was my primary job. And so, it was like, I didn't say, "Oh, that's not my gifting, so I'm not going to do it." I knew like, hey, there's a need, I'm going to fill it. And so that's actually, as a little 12-year-old boy, I got my first callus on my hands and, got my hands dirty and starting to lift weights and stuff like that. So yeah, so it was just that, we met at an elementary school, actually very close to my house now. I could almost throw a rock at it. So it's kind of fun living here after all these years where we started. So that was in 2004. And then, about a year later, I was at a Discipleship Now conference and they were preaching out of a passage of 1 Kings 18 with Elijah. He was willing to stand up when it seemed like the whole generation was silent. And Elijah spoke up, but it wasn't necessarily about how powerful he was. He was just so confident that God was better than Baal, And so he's like, "Bring it on. Let's have a contest here. I'm going to show you that God is the one who is the true God." Which kind of goes back to my tagline is like, Jesus is better, right? And it's just like, this is the true one and only God. And so from that, though, the pastor was preaching it, and I just never heard the phrase before in my life, but I really did feel the Holy Spirit. I think more than ever, even since, the Holy Spirit really spoke to me in that moment and said, "Trey, I'm calling you to be an Elijah for your generation. I'm calling you to full-time ministry. And so I walked forward. I didn't even know fully, I knew I had to walk forward. I'm Baptist, but I've never done that before. And I walked forward and I was like, I'm surrendering my life to the ministry. And so,
At 13.
Since 13
Wow.
has been that process. So now more than half of my life I've known, I was going to be in ministry and do that. But it did take me a while to figure out, what does that mean? Like even in college, I was like, does that mean I'm a missionary? Does that mean I'm a traveling speaker? Which that I never really entertained that one. But does it mean I'm going to revitalize a church? And that's what I really wanted to do, was to take over an existing church, because I saw all of the pain of a church plant. And so I said, God, I want to serve you, but my way, and so in college, the last 2 years, I was a youth pastor at a church that they were trying to revitalize, which just simply means an older church, had glory days in the past, has kind of gone down, is trying to go back up and grow more. And so I loved my time there. I'm very nostalgic about it now, but I recognize when I was in it, I realized it wasn't my skill set. I realized I was wired differently. I didn't have the kind of patience to, revitalize a church. And I was so disappointed in finding that out, because I did not want to plant a church. I remember my first year of college, I came back home for the summer, for example, and we had no money. I mean, the church plant was going through one of those dips. You remember the recession and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So we were still struggling from that, even in 2011. And so we actually had to sell my truck that summer for us to just pay the bills and eat for the summer. And so I just I was like, God, I don't want to do church planting, because to me it meant not a very stable life. Things could go well, but you don't have a building, so you just never know. Things can get, taken away from you in a moment. So even at that point, it took my father 14 years to get a building. So for 14 years, it's that, are we going to make it? Even if things are going well, there's nothing anchoring us down here. People, there's not, like, it's a lot easier for people to leave. And so, I know, long story short, I was 13 years old, ran from it. And then we launched our church when I was 24. So 11 years later, I planted a church.
And even the further back in that is that your grandfather was a pastor too, right?
Yeah. So
there was some family lineage there.
Great. Both my great grandfathers, on my mother's side, were pastors.
Wow.
Southern Baptist too. So I have those two. And then my grandfather was a pastor in the South in Tennessee, good barbecue. And then my father ran from the call, he says. And then at 40, that's when he came into the ministry. Wow. So I'm fourth generation.
And that's awesome. But I'm curious with that, obviously just for what you just said, the call was very clear, very evident in those moments that you had. Was it ever a pressure, the way that so many kids, because I grew up and my dad was a thing, and so I felt compelled to do, stay in the family business. Was there ever any pressure that way, or was it really so much more, you, God, let's figure this out?
That's a good question. I like to say I was raised normal. So until I was 12, I wasn't a pastor's kid. Yeah. So really, if anything, there was pressure of hey, be a successful businessman, no matter what it is, own something and make a lot of money. But even that, so when my dad went into ministry, my mom always said, I will never marry a pastor. And so the irony is she didn't marry one, but he became one. So it was kind of, it was almost the opposite of pressure. It was listen, ministry is really tough. Not that I'm always careful saying that way, because it's not, everybody's life is tough. So, I hate kind of harping in on that, but essentially some people, they see the glamour side of ministry. And so my family was very upfront. Even especially when I surrendered my life to ministries, my dad's like, all right, I'm going to show you the tough side of ministry. This isn't just going to be all roses, And so, if anything, it was almost encouraged against, because my family, my grandfather was very adamant. This is a calling from God. If you can do anything else, do that. Yeah. So I would say it definitely wasn't, I didn't feel that pressure either, even subconsciously. I just, I didn't.
Cool. Well, at what point were you already planting before you got married? Where did Jordan enter the picture as far as when you got married, the church plant and everything else that way, and having to balance church and family life?
Yeah, so we were high school sweethearts. So we dated for quite a while. And then we married actually the summer between my junior and senior year in college. So I was that weird senior in college that lived on campus. There's married housing there.
Yeah.
And my friends, like they thought it was really weird to hang out with me after I was married. I was like, what? Come on, man. I'm still the same person. It was just funny. But yeah, so I was married a year in college, and then we spent another year and a half to 2 years post-college helping my father in ministry. And I was also kind of serving as an intern / apprentice, getting ready to launch my own church. So I think we were married. We were married in 2013 and we planted in 2016. So we had 3 years of marriage before launching. And the other thing that helps too is my wife, she's incredible. I have to say that right away. I have 3 beautiful kids.
Good move.
Faith, Selah, and Trinity. Cannot forget them. But she knew. I mean, I was very upfront when I met her when I was 16. I'm going to be a pastor. And look, I'm a pastor's family. So are you down for this? So a big part of it. And when we dated, it was either I was at her house with her family or she was at my house with my family. It was usually my house with my family because we just had more things to do at our house and it was closer to town.
Yeah.
And so she was able to see kind of a little bit of the behind the scenes. So yeah, that whole, like, I know a lot of people always ask, like, how do you balance family and ministry? And I've gotten to that point where I'm like, ministry is not nearly as rewarding as family. So it's really not that hard for me to do the balance game. You know, it's like at the end of the day, these people, I love them. I love my church. I love my congregation. It's a privilege of a lifetime, but they're all going to leave, you know, like there's going to be a time, you know, and we all hurt each other and that's a part of life. And we hurt each other in marriage too. But it's like at the end of the day, when I'm retired, I'm still going to, Lord willing, you know, I'm still going to have my wife by my side and and be able to watch my kids as they grow up. So it's part of it's like, why would anybody sacrifice their marriage on the altar of ministry? It really doesn't make sense to me.
Right. But yet it still happens.
But it happens all the time.
Yeah. Well, because you raise a good point there. I was thinking about, actually, I think I was talking with a friend of mine recently about, you know, the last time that I was working for a church, which is almost 8 years ago now, having a realization that my entire bubble was there. That it was my work life, it was my social life, because I was there so much. Call that the trappings of a really big church, the big, busy church.
Yeah.
That, we have another event. I need to be there. We've got 4 services this weekend. I got to be there. It's one thing to say, I love Jesus so much I'm there every time the doors open, as opposed to, I work for the church. I have to be there every time the doors open. And having more of a struggle to find that balance of work and family life. Because the demands just keep coming. That it gets harder and harder
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it gets harder and harder to guard that time. You know, and where do you dig your heels in and say, hold on a second. If I don't protect my marriage, who is going to? Yeah.
That's good. And I think a couple of things I thought about that. Number one is we are a church plant, so we're more nimble. We don't have nearly as many programs. So when people reach out to me, it's them reaching out to me, and usually it's a chaotic, scary scenario. But throughout the week, I go to my growth group, you know, once a week. But really, you know, I'm not like at a church building every night of the week. So that helps a lot. And then we've set up a lot of boundaries in our home. Like at 7:00, I put the phone away and I'm just not available. From then on out, on Sabbath day, as everybody knows, on Saturday, you can't really reach me because I'm with my family. Because ultimately, there's nothing I can do for you that will like save your life in that moment. You know, like the difference between the urgent versus the important. And so it's like, I love to serve you. I will be there for you. But there's other times I just have to be there for my family. And so setting up those boundaries, even before we like launched our church, has helped a ton. Where it's like, this is just what we do, you know, this is how life is. And I think those boundaries help make sure. And then the way we set up our church, we are trying to really, you know, that simple church model, which Tom Rainer wrote a book called Simple Church. It's like, there's just a few things we need all of our people to do. And so like, I really don't want our church just to be busy, because typically a lot of times when the church is so busy, they're so busy just together. They're never out there in the world, loving their neighbor and meeting new people. So we don't want to be that church that like just controls their calendar throughout the week. Plus we're in Arizona. People are way too apathetic for that anyways. If we tried, people would say no, let's be honest.
I got you. Well, does it help that, I mean, you know, that's the kind of the beauty of social media is that I have this window into your life, and you do share quite a bit. But that Jordan has kind of found her own sweet spot with ministry. Was that a part of what she was looking for initially, or is that just kind of developed along as you guys have gone here?
Yeah, I love that. My wife, when we launched our church, she was like, she knew her calling was to be by my side and do ministry together, but she did not know what was it specifically God was calling her to do for her to step out. And so when we launched, like, she's like, I never want to be in front of people. I never want to be the spotlight. I'll just fill a hole. Like, she loved everything, she loved everybody. She's like, but our kids ministry was the biggest thing that we needed. And so she's like, okay, I'm the de facto ministry, kids leader. Yep. So that's what she did. And, but she just didn't find joy from it. It wasn't just like, she didn't wake up in the morning just so excited. Again, not that she hated it. Right. But it's just like, this clearly wasn't her calling. And so we really began that process. It was actually from, we were preaching through Ephesians 5 one time on marriage. And I recognized how our primary calling for our wife is to cultivate her, like to really bring out it's really to empower our wives. That's a huge role as a husband. Yeah. And that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, I've always viewed this marriage as, babe, you're always here to give me backup, to restore me, to empower me, and I'm going to go conquer the world. And so when I started to really I noticed that shift. So I started to talk to husbands who seem to be really good at empowering their wife. And so we kind of started this journey. And again, I'm not going to take credit because I empowered her, all this stuff happened. But I did recognize, wow, I need to do a better job being a husband. Like, for so long, it's just, she's here for me, but I need to be here for her. So we really did that process together where we just prayed, God, what are you calling her to? And that's when this women's ministry thing started to really blossom, and she's been amazing at it. She started doing a podcast, which really has more views every week than me. And lately she's on a break, and she still has more views every week than I do, even though I upload every week. So it's the joke around the house, which is amazing. And I mean, she even spoke at the women's conference, and that was something she said she would never do. She would never be on the microphone. And now we have her giving announcements every week. Like, we try to get her on the stage somehow, some way. She's just incredible. So it's been so fun just to watch her blossom. That's another thing that has been so rewarding. Like, I love seeing other people in our church blossom, but there's nothing like seeing your wife just step into something and just own it and just grow exponentially. Even this last weekend, like before, even the last 6 months, she's grown in reading. Cause me, I'm a reading nerd for those who have never heard about me before. I love reading. And this last Saturday, I could have never talked to her. She was just buried in her book. And that made me so happy. I was like, look at you reading, she finished the whole book in one day. I was like, that's my girl, so it's been a really fun journey. Watching her grow for sure. Well,
and what a great example for your girls too, that you guys really have locked arms to make the church thing work. Yeah. That's awesome. But just because, again, I've got this great window of social media that you can see that your girls are still such a priority, and that Sabbath is still such a key thing, that they're not taking a back seat to dad in church work. I mean, why is that such a huge priority to you, that those girls know that?
Yeah, we joke that I can never get caught up in ministry because our oldest daughter will not let it happen. I mean, she keeps me accountable. She does the countdown. 2 days till Sabbath. Make sure you get all your work done. Like, she literally tells me that, hey, it's tomorrow. I don't know what you're working on over there, but it better be done. Like, she literally says, it's amazing.
And she's how old now?
She's about to be 6.
And she's got you clocking.
Oh goodness, yes, she does. And let me make sure. I think I'm painting myself too nicely here. I am a bit of a workaholic, so we can get into that. I mean, I clearly am busy. I do a lot of stuff. So I realized just now the way I've been painting myself as I'm just this peaceful person who always has the right boundaries. That's not the case. But yeah, as far as what was your question? Oh, how do we prioritize our children? Like, why did we do that? Being a pastor's kid, there were moments that I recognized, I'm kind of getting ignored right now. And then I have a lot of friends who are pastors' kids, kind of obviously, and seeing them kind of veer off in life. So I wanted to make sure I can't control my children's future, but I want to make sure I can look back and go, you know what? We made every space, for God's grace to enter to our home. And I just do not want to live with that regret that I, again, served ministry over my children, because again, people are amazing, but they're not as amazing as my daughters. So keeping that priority is really helpful.
That's awesome. And she's one of my favorite people. I was going to say characters, here in the Trey Van Camp sitcom.
Favorite features in the documentary.
When you turn the camera on her and she just gives you a quick little piece of her mind.
Yes.
It's like, okay, someday I really do hope to be able to meet Jordan and your girls, because I just want to high five all of them.
That's awesome.
It's obvious that each of your girls has got such a cool, unique little personality that must be just a kick for you to watch, obviously.
Our youngest is really blossoming now, and it's just hilarious every day. All of them. We just laugh a lot because
I can imagine.
Just so funny. Full of character.
Well, and it's obvious that you've got the environment to allow them to be themselves. I mean, and I realize that our social media persona is always very edited and polished. But I think
in a sense it has to be.
Yeah, but I think that there's still an essence that comes through, that it's obvious that your family has got your priority, and they've got the right amount of space to be themselves. If that, just when you're like, I was thinking about a video that you had where it was like some kind of a fall festival or something like that. That Faith is the oldest.
Yes.
Right.
Look at you.
She. I want to say that she got on a zip line or something like that.
We went to a fall and she got on a zip line, yes.
Yeah, and then she was a little bit afraid, but she went ahead and tried it. But it's just like, then she had such a blast, and then it became a celebration. And it's just like being able to take those moments like that and say, yeah, this is a big deal. She was afraid, and she conquered it. Yeah. So why not celebrate that?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think that it's in those moments that, those are where you're going to make your family impressions, your tightness with your daughters. Anyway, it's easy for me to go off on that, being a girl dad myself.
Yeah, girl dads for life.
Exactly. But I know that within your family, it's not always been rosy either.
Nope.
Right. Is it 2 miscarriages you guys have had to contend with?
Yeah, in the span of 1 year.
God. And how much time between the 2?
It's like literally exactly 1 year.
Really?
Yeah. Almost to the day.
Wow. And I know with the last one, you were so very transparent about it. And for those of these wonderful listeners who don't know Trey or don't follow him yet, I very much appreciate your social media, your online presence. And maybe I've got the advantage of having had an opportunity to sit down and have a meal with you a couple of times, that you're a very genuine person. And I'm not just trying to blow sunshine in your windows because you agreed to do my podcast. I think I've got a pretty good read on people, and I see you as genuine in your videos as I have, sharing a burrito. I miss Phoenix.
Yes.
So for you to have moved forward with telling the story that you did about the last miscarriage, I know that had to be very difficult for you to put together and then to hit publish. But I think it's those really, really tough and rotten situations that's where you're going to touch people. There's somebody else out there who thinks that they're the only one.
Right.
Did you get feedback anywhere near like that when you did choose to share those moments?
I did. Yeah. And it's a really weird balance. So especially like I'm usually more prone to share things when it's just me, if I'm the offended party, but with it being my wife, I was trying to be very, gentle and just saying, hey, like, when do you want to share this, or do you want to share this? It's not something we have to do. But something that I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't want to waste my suffering. So I'd rather share it. You know, like I said the other day, you know, like success, it has a couple really good lessons, but suffering is just a never ending well, you know? And so like I never wanted, I hate suffering. I hate pain. I hate loss. What made it even harder, this last one. So our first miscarriage, we were pretty excited. We thought, okay, a fourth would complete the family. And to be honest, we're shooting for a boy. So I'm William Trey Lamar Van Camp the third. So I thought it'd be really cool to have a fourth. And so name him. He'd go by Liam. It's a whole thing. And so we never knew the gender of our first miscarriage. It was pretty quick. So that's what kind of made it. Doesn't ever make it easier, but you know, never saw the baby in, you know, on ultrasound or anything like that, or heard a heartbeat or anything. But this last one, we were very nervous because we had just had a miscarriage before. So we went in and everything seemed like fine and on pace. And so we actually did like the really early gender reveal where you can do the blood test because we were excited. And all the symptoms were dramatically different. So we were just convinced this was a boy. And so it came back and it was a boy, and we're so excited. So actually we had it where Christmas Day, we would tell our family by giving everybody a Christmas present. And in it is an Air Jordan onesie that says Van Camp number 4 on it. And we were super pumped about that. So we still have those. So we were pumped about that. And then we officially found out that we were going to have the miscarriage on my wife's birthday, the 22nd of December. Yeah. So it made it really hard. And we were like, you know, and we didn't have the miscarriage yet, but they're like, there's no baby. We don't see the baby anymore. And so we went in for a second ultrasound just to be like, maybe the ultrasound messed up, you know? And then they were finally like, no, it's, you know, the baby stopped growing. Something happened. Yeah. We're not fully sure here. So we found that out on her birthday. And then Christmas, we were so pumped. We had all these items, you know, to share. And then, so that day we were like, babe, like I told her, like, it's okay for us to be happy. Like if we ever find happy moments today, like it's okay. Like I know we're going through this, but you know, for the sake of our other kids, you know, let's just make the most of it. So it was a really tough day. Not our best Christmas, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. And so then we didn't want to ruin everybody else's Christmas. So we didn't tell them like, we're having a miscarriage, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so then like, and even since making the video, I think January 1st was terrifying because she went to the hospital because the miscarriage started to happen. She was losing a ton of blood, and she was pretty much, and again, because of all things COVID and everything, she was pretty much ignored at the ER. And so I wasn't allowed in there.
Yep.
It was 3 hours in there. She just, nobody saying anything to her. And she's like, I don't feel good. Like, so she called me. She goes, they're not listening. They won't come in. Babe, I don't know if I'm going to make it. And that's when I freaked out.
Oh gosh.
Oh no. She goes, I have lost so much blood. I mean, the panic in her voice. And I was just at the house. Couldn't do anything. I was so mad. And so, you know, I started bargaining with God. You know, like, God, take anything else. Yeah. You know, I don't care what. Like, just not her, please. Take my ministry, take any of this stuff. And so finally, I actually we're friends with some nurses there. So I started making phone calls. I'm like, look, I don't know where she's at, but nobody's getting to her. She's been hitting the light. I don't want to go too much, you know, I don't know how much time we have, but, you know, it was just terrifying. Long story short, they did nothing for her. They just gave her pain medicine and sent her back home. 2 days later, they rush her in again. And they're like, oh my gosh, you have barely any blood left. We had to pump it in her. And it's like, this could have happened 3 days ago. So, really sad. So it's just like this lingering thing. And then the day she got home, all of a sudden I got COVID. So it's just been like, all right, God, we're tired of this. But thankfully my wife never got it. So I'm like, good. She's been through enough. But yeah, we like to share those stories just because I think the gospel that I believe in, that's in the Bible. I just don't think it's ever been about success after success after success. You know, it's really about humility and humbling yourself and suffering and dying to yourself and losing and having longings in your life that are taken away, but still throughout the whole process, you're continually reminded, oh, but Jesus is still better than this. Jesus is still better than if this was successful. And so that's just kind of like the theme that I've recognized in my life. And I just want to share that. Like, we've had a few people come up to us personally. We even had a recent couple that flew all the way from Minnesota to hang out with us. I had never met them.
I saw that
before,
on your Instagram.
Yeah, they watched me on YouTube, and they had a miscarriage in this last year. So they really related to that. We have a couple of church members where their parents are like not believers, but they sent them that video and they're like, you know what? And so like, they're starting to listen to my sermons now. It just kind of like takes away some of those like, oh, pastors are all jerks and, you know, they're only here for your money, all those different, reputations that we have of ourselves. So like, to me, it's like, all right, God, like I want, 2 Corinthians 1, like why, like in our suffering, we're able to help those who are suffering. Yeah. And to me, I think telling our story is just one small way. I don't think it's the whole shebang, but it's one small step towards that direction of saying, hey, we get it. Right. Life is hard. I'm never going to preach from the pulpit, believe in Jesus and everything's better. Like, in fact, almost to be in Christ is to be in conflict and to be in crisis, especially this side of heaven.
Yeah. But would you rather walk through that crisis with him or without him?
Right.
And for that matter, just the other thing that hit me right there too was the, laugh with those who laugh and weep with those who weep. That's where those deep, rich relationships come from. That
Amen.
We can have happy birthday parties and things like that, but the real rich depth comes in the hard stuff.
Yes.
And
yes.
It sucks, but
right. And, and pastors are so quick right now. Life is very hard, more than normal for everybody. And we're so quick to try to sell this, like, it's got to get better. But I think there's a better message to preach, Yeah. Just like, like we're so adamant about progress, but I think we need to make it more about presence. And, you're going to be in the fire, but like, what's great about being in the fire is he's with us, but I think the fire still hurts. Oh yeah. But he's with us in it. So it's worth it. Yeah. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Well, guess what? You still have to walk through it. Right. But he's with us. And therefore that's why the beginning of the Psalm says, I have what I need. The Lord is my shepherd. I have I have what I need, but I'm still going to go through the stuff. Yeah. And, I just think it's actually a more compelling gospel to include suffering and to not be shy about it. Yeah.
Well, and I think we do live in a strange time, and maybe that's not the right word, but I think that if our faith is to ever have any appeal, it has to be real. Oh, that was a Trey Van Camp right there.
Oh, that one hit. That one hit.
Maybe we should all stop and write that down. I think people can see through the smoke and mirrors. They can see through the gold leaf chairs and the sad trappings that, again, you just mentioned reputations.
And some don't. And they try to run after what they're selling, and they give them all the money, but they always wind up even more depressed, even more discouraged at the end of it.
Right. But that to me is, again, it's just like, I don't want to play a part in that. Right. I want my faith to have legitimacy, that it's not pixie dust and unicorns, that I'm where I am right now because of Jesus and only because of Jesus. Yeah. And you want to break bread and let me tell you a little of my story? I'll tell you my story. I love what you said about not wasting the sorrow. And I hope that others of faith can find something in that too, to say, it's like your story matters, because we've all been through some of that valley that you just talked about. Yeah. So I believe that's where God redeems those things, when you share it, when it becomes an encouragement to somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It does.
I'm glad I recorded this, because
I know our lunch conversations are always not recorded. So.
Yeah, seriously. That one when I was out there the last time and we had just the Mexican
Lulu's.
food. What was it called?
Tacos.
Oh gosh, that burrito was so amazing. Wrecked me forever.
Pretty much my only diet. It's just always Mexican food all day, every day. So.
You're mocking me now.
I am.
Well, and I like that you're transparent about it. Yeah, I pretty much am.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't want to get too deep into it, but I am curious, and I think it'll be potentially interesting for folks, is that pastoring isn't your only gig because it can't be. It's not like you have a dump truck to just rake in all that cash that you pastors make on a yearly basis. You're out there finishing concrete to keep food on the table.
Yeah.
The tent maker of sorts. That's one of those aspects of things that I wonder, do people ever even realize that,
Well, what's hard, the Arizona culture, some people are shocked that pastors get paid at all because the Mormons, they don't pay their leaders.
Right.
So how come you get paid?
Yeah.
And so,
or is that, it's like, I'm a pastor. Is that a full-time gig, part-time gig? How does that work?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And just to make sure my bases are covered, our church is doing, we're continually increasing giving. We're super grateful for that. Our church is in a really good spot, and they take care of me for what we get, what we rake in. I'm very grateful for them. But yeah, to make ends meet, and honestly, to keep paying these stupid hospital bills we keep racking up. Concrete, my dad does that still on the side, so I do that with him. We do that 2 to 5 times a week, depending 2 to 5 days a week, depending on how much workload we want to take on. Lord willing, I don't even have to rely on church income so that I can I can hire other people at church, or I can be one step closer to getting a building, all those things. So if there's any way that I can, alleviate the burden and spread the love, that's what I'd love to do.
And see, what a great mindset is that I don't know. See, this to me goes back to what I know of Trey Van Camp is just a very genuine person who understands that the kingdom is the much bigger deal.
I also know that I don't know, there's a lot I don't know about what's coming down the pipe, but I do hope. And I just always, especially when I don't know, when I'm at my church, I think about church members, but when I'm at home, when I'm on YouTube, I'm usually communicating to the pastor. Yeah. And I'm just really praying that this is a time where we we stop playing the games. We stop trying to be better than everybody else and try to claim we have more people than that other church, and, just really get involved in kingdom business. I just pray that this is forming us into becoming healthier disciples of Jesus. Can you imagine how much the conversation would change instead of just pointing out all the problems in society, which we have enough of, but what if we did it hey, don't you think heaven wouldn't look this way? Okay, so how do we get to that, as close to that as possible? Because we have Christ in us.
Trey is one of those friends who is always so easy to talk to, and we always have such great conversations. 2 things stood out for me. The first one is, Jesus is better. Now, while that may sound too simple, it's still so true. I can go through all the craziness of this life with him or without him. And for me, I know that my life is so much better with Jesus in it. And the second one is, don't waste your suffering. And that one is a little tougher to wrap your head around. Times of suffering are hard. We've all had them. But when you allow God to redeem those times and to use them to help someone else, they take on a completely different meaning. Your story matters, even the really dark chapters. I have links to many places where you can find Trey in the show notes. I'm especially a fan of his YouTube channel. He posts such good content there on a regular basis. As always, if you have any questions or comments about this or other episodes, you can reach me at Stephen@nookpodcast.com. That's Stephen with a V at nookpodcast.com. And if you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, come on over. It's facebook.com/meetmeinthenook. It's been so good having you with me today, as always, and I will catch you here next time in the Nook. The Nook is a production of Sozo Digital Media.